Hey, you're tuned in to Tech Talk with VLink, an award-winning podcast brought to you by VLink Inc. In each episode, host Tracy Gardner sits down and talks trending tech with global business and tech executives.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this edition of Tech Talk with VLink, the tech podcast where we talk to those in the C-suite and management about tech subjects near and dear to our hearts. Today, our guest is Pradipta Banerjee. Pradipta serves as the Chief People Officer for Emids, a digital engineering company working at the intersection of design, engineering, and healthcare. Emids works closely with customers to advance the future of health through technology solutions. With over 20 years of experience with multiple global organizations, Pradipta aims to create opportunities that holistically advance and strengthen Emids' human capital. Prior to joining Emids, Pradipta led various leadership roles in CGI across the Asia Pacific and globally, helping to propel their growth from 3.5 billion to 11 billion. Pradipta is an avid sports enthusiast, and we're happy to have him here on Tech Talk with VLink. Welcome, Pradipta.
Thank you for having me, Tracy. Good to be here.
It's so good to hear. Now, just real curious off the top, what sports are you a big fan of?
Well, multiple sports. I mean, first is soccer or football, as you call it in this part of the world.
Yes.
Cricket. I'm from India, so therefore cricket is sort of a mini religion for us. So that's the other one. While I
Yeah.
don't play well, I don't play cricket very well, but I do follow cricket, and I do a little bit of tennis. I'm pretty good at it. So
Oh,
multiple sports
that's
is something
awesome.
I'm fascinated about.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, Pradipta. I thought today, Pradipta, since you are the Chief People Officer for Emids, that we talk about organizational change on this episode of Tech Talk. And because it's something we don't hear a lot about publicly. I think internally we do. Now, when it comes to organizational change, how can companies leverage their full potential and capabilities? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost is sort of alignment. A lot of organizations find it difficult to sort of align what they're telling their clients versus what they're doing internally, and
Yeah.
what they're doing internally versus what they really believe in. And I think if you can connect what you believe in, what your values are, what your vision is, what your goals are, and therefore what your offerings are, if you
Yeah.
kind of connect those three or four things together, I think that's the recipe for success. That's how I have seen organizations do very, very well. I've seen teams do very well. Um, it's simple in some ways if you think about it, but it's awfully difficult when you're sort of dealing with a large
Yeah.
organization, a large workforce, especially a globally sort of distributed workforce. It becomes that much more difficult. Uh, but
Oh, I'm
but
sure.
but that's what I believe. Alignment in terms of what you believe, alignment in terms of what you tell your clients, alignment in terms of what your goals are, and then how you're sort of motivating and incentivizing your workforce to sort of follow and stay in that alignment.
And to just be consistent, really. I mean, um, you've definitely been with large transformational companies like, let's say, CGI and now Emids. Has your view of organizational potential evolved over the years?
Well, yes, largely. I mean, I have mostly been in the services sector, and if you think about it, services and the quality of organization that you work for is directly proportional to the quality of people you have, quality of talent you have.
Yeah.
So I think that's fundamental, and that has not changed over the years. But what has changed is, I guess, how you sort of leverage different sets of talents to do different things within an organization. How is your marketing team sort of focused outward, whereas your delivery teams focus inward? I think those have changed. And then
Mhm.
a lot of organizations have tried this thing of trying to do different things for different people at different points in time and not being successful. So the I've seen organizations who do a very few things but do them very, very well and sort of be leaders in that space. So I think depending on which sector you're in, where you're in, which stage of maturity you're in as an organization, you need to sort of pick the right recipe, and find the alignment, as I said in the earlier conversation, find the alignment, and that I think is a recipe for success.
Right recipe, right ingredients. Absolutely. What do you see, Pradipta, as the most common untapped capabilities you see in an organization? I'm sure you've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times organizations fail to sort of leverage 100% of the capabilities of its talent. You may
Mm,
have some great talent sort of stuck in different silos of the organizations, and because they're not visible, they do not have the opportunity to manifest the best version of themselves. And I think that it's a pity for an organization that they have the capability, and yet they're not being able to demonstrate that. They are not being able to take it to the market, to their clients. So I think
mhm.
siloed organizations who have too many sort of interconnectedness, organizations who have different matrix, very complicated matrix structures, those are the organizations sort of suffer from these kind of problems. They are too siloed and not coming out as a cohesive unit, a cohesive sort of organization to sort of lead forward. So that's
I think
one. Sorry.
definitely. Yeah.
And the second one, I think, sometimes you don't time the market right. Sometimes you time the market too early or you time the market too late, right? And therefore, having a very close connection with your clients. A lot of organizations treat clients at an arm's length, deal them at an arm's length. But actually,
Mm-hmm.
clients want us to be successful. There is no fun if in a client to see their partner not being successful, right?
True.
It doesn't make sense. So
Right.
therefore, I don't think organizations truly capture the cerebral capacity of the client to help them to win and grow. And I
Mm.
think that's another trick that most organizations miss. They don't really capture the cerebral capacity of the client, asking them the things they need to do for them to be more successful with the client, right? So I
Yeah.
think those are two or three things that I've seen working great in some places and not working so great in other places.
You're so right though about the point about silos. You hate to see people working in silos. I think a lot of that started with COVID and it continues,
Yeah,
and that's not necessarily a good thing.
yeah.
Um, so Pradipta, would you say that unlocking the potential with those people that maybe do work in the silos is more about the people or processes, or would you say it's more about mindset and motivation?
I think at the fundamental level, it's mindset and motivation. But organizations, the easier way for organizations to sort of deal with it is with processes and awards and rewards, right? If you can sort of align processes that sort of takes away silos. Like for example, if you have an organization which is too matrixed, there are too complicated matrix, it just becomes difficult for people to navigate. So make them as straight line as possible, right? if you if
Yeah.
you if you have an operating model that is too convoluted, it just becomes difficult for people to navigate and figure things out. Make them simple, as simple as possible. Sometimes simple is hard, and therefore organizations resort to complicated ways and means of running the business, right? So I think keeping it simple, um, keeping it as straight as possible is the best way to make things work for large sections of the workforce.
Yeah, yeah, good points there. Yeah, definitely. Well, how do you see leaders? How do they start identifying what would you advise them to do where the hidden potential lies within their teams or business units? What would you advise them on? How do they start
Yeah, so
identifying
my
this?
my my definition of leaders are people who can sort of take a complicated idea, because business is tough. Business is
Yeah,
complicated. It's
yeah,
if you're working across geographies, it's complex. Different geographies have different legislations,
for sure.
different geographies have different needs. It's complex. So leadership is a tough game. But I think the biggest and the most important attribute of a leader is how do you sort of look at that whole complex structure and situation and sort of break it down into very very simple elements so that more people can adopt, appreciate, and then contribute, right?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's the biggest job of leaders look at complex problems, sort of break them into smaller pieces which are simple, and then sort of allow people to understand those and then start contributing to those. I think that's the biggest leadership challenge we have. And in
yeah,
today's day and age, where we're talking about, multiple countries, multiple legislation. With the advent of AI, things are getting really, really complicated. And
We all are.
therefore, and therefore leadership is really where we need help from leaders to sort of break some of these complicated jargons, complicated ways of working, complicated understanding of the business, and make them simple for people to understand and adopt. And that's when you see maximum amount of people sort of contributing and making a difference to the organization and to the clients and support.
Great wisdom. Yeah, definitely great wisdom there. Are there any practices, Pradipta, you found especially powerful in nurturing innovation and initiatives across an organization, all levels?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at Emids, for example, we allow our people to try different things and fail fast.
Mm,
Because unless you fail, you can't learn new things. I mean, the fact that you're not failing means you're not trying enough, trying new things enough, right? So at Emids, we one of the things we really, really promote is act quick and fail fast. If you need to fail, fail fast, and then you learn from
yeah,
it and you sort of go on, kind of stuff. So that's one thing. Innovation is about trying different things, failing a few of them, but learning from them, and then winning in a couple of them and really making a big impact. So that's one that we do. Two, I think innovation is a mindset.
hmm,
And how do you sort of generate the right mindset for a large section of people so that they're always thinking of innovation. Innovation is not a sort of a second tier concept.
hmm,
It's not of a afterthought. It's something that you just think always. Emids is a company we're trying to sort of achieve things that most people take years to happen. We are trying to do
oh,
things in the next 2 3 years that most people will try and do it in 5 10 years, right? And therefore we can't try the standard process of achieving success. We need to break the mold and try new ways of doing things. And we
I
try
love
new
that.
ways. Some of them will work, some of them will not work. And we need to be absolutely fine with it as a company, as people, as an ecosystem. We need to be fine with it as we move forward. And that's sort
Yeah,
of what we promote as an organization. And that's how I've seen some successes in
I love
innovation
that.
and trying new things.
Absolutely love that. You need to speak to everybody's leaders so that, fail fast is true. I mean, take some risks and fail fast and learn from it. I love that. That's really great. Well, Pradipta, how do you I know you have there's lots of data out there, people analytics, you're the chief people officer. How do you uncover trends or friction points in an organization's growth?
Yeah, so any organization is sort of a living animal, and therefore we need to see how things are happening with the organization, especially decision velocity within the organization. Somebody takes a decision at a certain place within the organization, how the decision is flowing and how it is getting executed across the organization. Great organizations, ensure that it happens very, very fast, and there is really
Mhm.
very limited friction between the point of starting and the point of execution, kind of stuff. But organizations were sort of troubled with silos, organizations where alignment is mismatched, those organizations sort of have problems. There are stops and starts. That's what we see typically. And so we look at some of those, look at stops and starts, look at culture, look at engagement. you know some of those are sort of inherent attributes to a problem that is there in the organization. If our people are not happy, if our people are not engaged and focused on the same goal, then there is something wrong either in the goal itself or in the articulation of the goal. And leaders are
Mhm.
responsible for articulation of the goal. So when we see some of those sort of visible attributes of engagement, visible attributes of dropouts, visible attributes of not meeting goals, we then go back and figure out, is it the problem with the goal because the goal is not crisp enough, or is it the problem with the articulation? People have not sort of adopted the goals and made and articulated well enough. So those are the things that we look at when you think about organization and the health of the organization.
Yeah, very good. Well, you've mentioned Emids a couple times. Let's talk about it real quick. You're in the healthcare and life sciences space. What do you think are the unique challenges and opportunities that exist when it comes to unlocking potential?
So we're in the healthcare and life sciences space mostly in North America. and you would understand this, Tracy. North American healthcare business is a very, very complex business.
It is.
It's a huge business, and yet it has huge opportunities for improvement, huge opportunities for effectiveness, huge opportunities for being more efficient, and that's what we are sort of trying to do. We are trying to help the whole healthcare industry to become better, become more efficient, and become more effective. Ultimately, human lives are impacted because healthcare is good or healthcare is not so good, right? And our
Yeah.
job is to sort of ensure that the availability of healthcare is sort of available for all, for everybody in North America, and available in a manner that everybody sort of appreciates. So that's what we're trying to achieve. It's a big task, and
It
it's
is.
not possible. It's not possible for one company to do it. Therefore, we work in collaboration with so many of our clients, so many of our partners, because healthcare is a really big thing, and it's
It
not
is.
it's not possible for any one company to make a difference. And our job, therefore, is to lead with influence. Our job, therefore, is to lead with domain expertise, is to lead with engineering, which leads with design, and help healthcare companies, help the ecosystems to adopt things that we're talking about, so that healthcare becomes better and good for all.
I love it. Well, Pradipta, we're getting short on time, but one last question. If you could leave leaders with one powerful mindset shift or action to start unlocking potential tomorrow, what do you think it'd be?
I'll say two. One is stay human. I think leaders are leaders because they have followers, and
Hmm.
followership happens when leaders remain human. People are not following a celebrity, people are not following a charisma, people are following the individual behind the leader. So stay authentic, stay human. So that's number one. And number two is something that I've always said, try to make matters simple. Simplicity is easy but very hard. And leadership must spend more time, more energy, more effort to make matters simple so others can follow.
I love it. I love it. Well, any last thoughts before we go? Any last things you'd like to impart? I mean, your wisdom's been great. You should write a book.
Yeah, maybe one day, maybe one day.
Maybe
Yeah,
one day. You've got a lot of
yeah.
wisdom to impart. I love
No,
it.
I think first of all, thank you again for this opportunity. I think leadership across the world is at different stages of maturity, but at the end of the day, leadership is about four things. One, and the first and the most important one, is managing self. If you can't manage your own self, you can't manage anybody, right? So managing
Exactly.
self, managing teams, managing clients, and managing the environment. I think those are the four things that leadership should strive for, and it starts off with managing self. So my sort of call to all leaders across the world is to spend the time and energy to manage self. Take care of yourselves. Find happiness, find peace, find balance. Because only when you are in a sense of balance as leaders, you will be able to preach and help people to get balance. So that would be my last sort of parting words.
Great advice, Pradipta. You've been an amazing guest. You've a thought leader with so much wisdom to impart. We've learned so much from you today. Truly appreciate you giving us some insight into growth strategies and how people are the key. We cannot forget it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tech Talk with VLink by VLink Inc., headquartered in Connecticut. We'll see you in the next one.